Welcome to Our Beautiful Chaos, a podcast about all things life, love, and just the stuff that make this life chaotic. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today for episode 2 of my new podcast. Welcome to Our Beautiful Chaos. I'm your host, Leanne Taylor. I hope you are all staying safe and well in this pandemic, basically our new normal. If you're new to the podcast, I do want to say welcome again, and please take a few minutes and go back to episode 1 and listen to and learn a little bit about me, so you can hear a little bit about my story and why I chose to go on this podcast journey. The introduction episode is not very long, but it does introduce you to things about me, some background information about why I'm doing this, and just kind of a backstory. So take a few minutes and go check it out if you're new. If you listened to the first episode and you actually came back, well, I want to say thank you for coming back for episode 2. That's so exciting that you came back to listen again. I really appreciate it. I'll try not to disappoint you. My plan is to be here every week uploading a chat or interview or just me talking about one of my favorite topics. Or it might even be yours, just depending. So let's get into this week's topic. Last week at the end of the episode, I mentioned what this week's topic might be. So did everybody kind of think about it? Did everybody listen to it? Did you catch it? Well, I don't know if you would call it a single topic or just a question to think about, but I gave you a whole week to think about it. Maybe you've been thinking about your answer, or maybe you're just waiting to hear my answer or thoughts. The question was, what would you do if you were not afraid? In this episode, I will give you my answer to this question and some things to think about when we make decisions based on being afraid. So it's a good question, right? You really don't think about the question, what do you do when you're afraid? You know, if you weren't afraid when we're making decisions about our lives. It's just something we don't really think about. I saw this question on a YouTube video. I follow several families on YouTube. They do videos, that's their job. This was the title of their video one week. And so, of course, it suckered me in. You know, that's what happens when you get on YouTube. You start watching one video and then, wow, you're watching another and then another. And then like 3 hours later, you've watched 15 videos. So here I go. But it got me to thinking, what would I do? So in order to answer the question, I had to figure out what I would really want to do that I had not done in my life at 43 years old because I was afraid of something or my fear kept me from trying it. For example, I've always wanted to move out of the small town I grew up in. And if you've lived in a small town before, everybody knows who you are. Everybody knows your parents. Everybody knows your kids. And it's kind of hard, you know. But it's also kind of easy at the same time. But I always kind of wanted to move to where nobody knows me. So they didn't know my business. They didn't know my children's business. And I thought it would be a lot easier. I never moved out of this small town because I wanted to raise my kids here. Because I did think it was a good place for them to grow up in. It has great schools. It has great people. I've always heard the thing, it takes a village to raise your kids. Well, my small town was my village. But really, it was because I was afraid. If I moved out of this town, I would be giving up a sense of security that my hometown gives me. Because I know everybody, I have family here. It's almost like I would be leaving who I was and what made me in this small town. And I didn't want to do that to my kids. I didn't want to do that to me. I mean, if I left and I'm in a big city or I'm even in a small town somewhere else where nobody knows me, I'm all alone. Where here, you walk into a restaurant and it's like, oh, everybody knows you, kind of like that sitcom, you know, everybody knows your name when you walk in the door. But when I finally realized that yes, being raised in a small town made me who I am today, but I carry all that with me if and when I go and leave my small town. So if I end up leaving and moving one day, or maybe never, who knows? I may stay in my small town forever. But why be afraid to do something like that? Because it's something I want to do, but I'm still going to, leave my small town and take it with me. I just take the feelings that I have with me. So why be afraid? I've also thought at one time or another to try a couple things. Write a book, do a YouTube channel, do a blog. Oh wait, do a podcast, start an Etsy store, and the most recent one was to start an organizing business. Hint, hint to everyone. That one actually might be coming true. Any of these things also are going to put me in the spotlight to others. It's going to put me out there to either fail or succeed. But sometimes me or other people, you might see the failure first. You don't see that you might go out there and actually succeed. So what if people laugh at me? What if people talk about me? Live in a small town, right? What if I fall right on my face? What if it's a big, huge disaster? Again, this fear of failing is holding me back from doing something that I want to do for myself or that could benefit others. It all goes back to a fear of failing at something and being afraid of it, being afraid of that failure. I mean, who really wants to fail at anything? Nobody. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that said, oh yeah, I want to fail that test, or I want to fail at, this new business that I'm trying. Nobody wants to fail at anything. I mean, I didn't get up this morning and say, I'm going to fail at my job today, or I'm going to fail at school. That is not anybody's intent or desire to fail. It just happens. It's part of life, and we have to experience failure at some point in our lives. Failure is not a step backwards. It's actually a stepping stone that helps you become more successful in your life. Now, think about what I just said. Failure is not a step backwards. It's actually a stepping stone that helps you become more successful in your life. Now, that one took me a minute. So you mean to tell me, if I fail in my life and I have to take a couple steps back, that's actually going to make me more successful in my life? I don't think so. But I thought about it, and that's actually true, because you learn from your failures just as much as you learn from your successes. And I think as we get older, we learn maybe more from our failures, because we learn too what not to do. Young kids necessarily don't learn that as easy as older people. If we don't, learn how to move out of some of our comfort zones that we're all in, we're not going to overcome that fear. We're not going to overcome maybe that failure that we made. So again, why be afraid? If we have to move out of our comfort zones to get over these fears, things in our life are going to have to change. And we must be the ones to start making the changes. So when I thought about that, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to move out of a comfort zone that I'm in. I'm comfortable where I'm at. If I want to make any of those changes, okay, I don't know about that. Because moving out of your comfort zone and getting over your fear, that's a hard one. So with this one, I thought about my friend that I talked about in the first episode. And if you've not listened to the story in episode 1, go back and listen to it about how this podcast came into existence and why my friend thought I should do this podcast. She was right. I'm not afraid to speak my mind at all. I haven't been afraid to speak my mind since, I don't know, maybe I was 15. I don't even know. It's been so long I can't even remember. So here it goes. What people think about me, it's not really important. What I think and feel about what I'm doing is what is important. If I'm happy and I'm trying to be a better me, then what other people think about me or what I'm doing doesn't really matter. And that goes for you as well. If you're listening, and you're thinking other people don't like what I'm saying or what I'm doing or what I'm wearing, or so what? It doesn't matter. It's what your opinion of yourself, that's what matters. The author Rachel Hollis says other people's opinions of you is none of your business. And I totally agree with that statement. If you've never read her books, you should check them out. They're titled, the two that really helped me out, Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing, were the two that really changed my life. I mean, they were total life changers for me. I highly recommend them. There's another book called Do It Scared by Ruth Sokup. And in her book, she talks about making a conscious choice. Even if it's for a few minutes, you need to turn off all the voices in your head that tell you what you want to do is not possible, or that it's stupid, or who are you to think that you can't do something like that? Everybody has the right to dream, and dream big. Don't think that about how you're going to get there or if it's possible or not. Just allow yourself to imagine it happening. Even if it's completely crazy, kind of like doing this podcast. I never thought that I would be sitting here doing a podcast. It is completely crazy. Give yourself permission to dream big. And the book is titled Do It Scared, so that really should tell you what that kind of means. This can be hard for a lot of people. And, when I was doing some research for the podcast, I was seeing that a lot of moms have a hard time with dreaming big because they pour their lives into families and even if they're working and their after school activities and what you volunteer for with your, families, and you hardly have nothing left for anyone else, especially themselves. I was talking to someone the other day about, what you give to your friends and how can you give to other people if your coffee cup is empty. I can't give anything to anybody if my cup is empty. So, you have to kind of make sure your coffee cup is full. But if you're dreaming of something big and you're wanting to do it or try it, but you've been scared of failing, or you've been in a comfort zone for too long, and when I say comfort zone for too long, maybe you've been in a job for too long that you're comfortable with it. You've been in a job for maybe 10 years or so, and you're like, oh, this is fine. I'm good. I don't want to promote. I don't want to change because it's easy. Well, you've been in your comfort zone for too long. So jump out of your comfort zone. See where it takes you. See what happens. Now's the time. You have to take action once you decide what you want to do. Figure out what you want to do. Figure out what you're afraid to do. Now that you know you're not afraid. But maybe you still are afraid of something. Maybe there's something that's really big you want to go try. But once we get over the fear of being afraid, the possibilities are endless on what we can do. This world and this life that we have, it is crazy busy, crazy full of things and ideas and people who can make that happen. So why not try to do them all? I'm not saying you can maybe get your whole bucket list, but maybe you can get a few. Taking action on those possibilities, you have to set a goal. You may have to change your schedule around. You may have to go back to school. You may have to add things to your to-do list. You may have to take a risk or two. But whatever change that you have to make in your life, I'm going to guarantee you they're going to be worth it if it gets you where you want to be. I went back to school a few years ago, and I can guarantee you that was the best change I ever made because it got me a good job, and I love my job. But those changes, you have to be ready to change your schedule. You have to be ready to put the time in if you want the win at the end. We also need to be brave and have the courage to do things even though we're scared. And just because we set our goal, we made these changes in our lives to achieve these things, it doesn't mean we're not scared anymore. Because brave people still have fears. But you know what happens? I'm gonna just tell y'all what happens, what brave people do. I hope you're all listening, and I hope you're listening real well. Brave people, they're still scared. Do y'all know that? But you know what they do? They do it anyway. Do y'all hear me? Brave people are still scared to do things, to do a podcast, to write a book, to start a new business. But you know what? Every day they do it anyway. So I can tell you some of the best moments in my life were my greatest fears. Starting this podcast. I'm enjoying it, but it's a fear that I have. It's huge. And probably starting that business that I keep talking about is going to be a great thing. I'm going to love it, but I'm kind of nervous about it. And it's during those moments that you think you can chicken out. Oh, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to quit before I even really start. But you don't. And then you really figure out, I'm glad I didn't because it made me happy. Or, maybe it's keeping my mind off other things, or maybe it's making somebody else happy. So I kept going, and I've stepped out, and full of fear, but I've trusted myself that I could do it. And guess what? I'm doing it right now. I'm recording a podcast. So just like the title to Ruth Sokup's book, Do It Scared. I'm doing it scared right now, y'all. And it's scary. You have to worry about, oh, well, how do I sound? Oh, well, how does is it too long? Is it too short? I have to, look at my executive producer that thinks he's an executive producer and let him eye roll at me. You'll meet him later in a couple podcasts from now. But if any of y'all know me, y'all gonna know who it is, even just by me talking. So it's weird, But guess what? I'm still doing it. And I'm going to laugh about it when I get done. And I'm going to say, hey, that was kind of crazy. What you think? But I'm still doing it. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to work on the next one and the next one and the next one after that. Because I'm going to get a bunch of them out there so y'all can hear it. Because you know what? I got a lot to say. And if you know me personally too, that's the truth too. But all these wonderful moments that we've talked about, they started with one question. What would you do if you were not afraid? That's a huge question. Think about that question for a while. When I first asked it last week, I was hoping that people would sit down and really think about it because it's a big question to me. Think about what you would do. I guess you figured my answer. I started a podcast. I may actually start my organizing business. Who knows about me? But I know when I heard that question, that YouTube video, it immediately sparked thoughts and a thought process for me to think about that. What do I want to do for the rest of the time I'm living this life? And I started a list. And all those things on that list, they may not come to pass. I may just skip a few here, skip a few there. I may start marking them off the list. But they're on the list. And it's things that I've maybe thought about, but I've kind of been scared to do. Well, you know what? I ain't getting any younger, so why not? And that's the real reason for this podcast, is to make you think about life and the topics that, everyday life is about. And really to realize how short life really is. And we need to live every day to the fullest. I'm going to tell y'all, life is short, people. Love your families. Love yourself. If you got something you want to go do, you know what? Go out and do it. Conquer your fears and enjoy your life every day, every minute of every day. Because when you get to the end of your life, you're going to see those greatest moments. And you're going to remember those in your life and think, wow, I overcame all those fears to get to those greatest moments. But go out and conquer them. Enjoy your life. If you get anything out of this podcast today, make sure you do that. I'm going to end it here for now, but I want you to join me next week for my new episode titled Build Your Armor. And we're going to talk about how we all need to start building our armor, not just for ourselves, but the people around us. So to learn more about me in this podcast, please visit my website, welcometoourbeautifulchaos.org. Also, if there's a specific topic you'd like me to talk about, please send me an email at beautifulchaos00@gmail.com. Also, make sure you give me a like and a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for listening to our podcast. I really appreciate it. It really has been a journey to get here. I don't know how long that I will do this, but it's really it makes me happy to do it. So we'll see where it goes. I really do appreciate you listening, and I hope that you come back next week. I hope you all have a great week. Thank you for listening to Welcome to Our Beautiful Chaos. Peace. Welcome to Our Beautiful Chaos, a podcast about all things life, love, and just the stuff that make this life chaotic.